predatory animals.
Literally, I have birds. I literally have birds.
But those are your
on
friends.
my shoulder.
Those are your friends. You don't have any delusion about what you're doing. You just got your homie.
What are you saying
right?
about it?
You just got your homie on your side. Who's kind of a dick, by the way. Floyd's
He
a complete
is.
dick. Welcome to another episode of Don Draper's Down. On this podcast, we discuss branding and marketing, how it touches so many aspects of our lives. We also talk a bunch of trash about music and food and culture and each other and nostalgia. We hope you're entertained. We hope you can get some insight from two marketing professionals such as ourselves. I'm Chris. This is Ernie. In this episode, we get into all kinds of ridiculous things. Falconry is where we start. Ballet,
Personal branding,
non-negotiables.
Yeah, non-negotiables.
Who you are as a person, the evolution of the person and the brand.
Corporate branding.
It gets so deep. So it's a good journey. Hope you enjoy it. Of course, please share, subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff. We want to blow this thing up, and we appreciate your support. So without further ado, pour yourself a glass, and let's get into this.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. I always forget. The Russian one is Nostrovia. I just want to say Nosferatu.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely not that. Cheers.
Yeah. Immediate reaction, right? We're buddies a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, man, I'm going to get into falconry.
Okay.
What do you do? What's your immediate... I say that to you, and you say...
To you? What do I say?
Yeah.
I say, cool. Kind of out of the norm. Like,
okay.
I'm surprised.
All right. So these are supportive vibes. Cool.
Yeah, because I'm always about trying to encourage people to learn new things. I'm a consummate hobbyist.
So you're the hype man.
Yeah, consummate learner, poly hobbyist.
All right.
So are you just saying that, or are you?
Yeah, I'm definitely not getting a goddamn falcon. That's a predatory bird. I'm going to keep in my apartment. That's right. They frown upon the bulldog.
But you remember, we have exotic birds. So for me,
this would be very commonplace.
I'm already thinking, how do I get Floyd out of his cage and spend more time outside? Right. So I was thinking maybe I got to get one of those gloves. I got to harness him. I got to take him out. Maybe get him to fly a little bit with a long leash. So for me,
do they have that? They have bird leashes.
Yeah, they have bird leashes. So for me, I'm already thinking about that. So for you to say falconry, it's like, oh, cool. Are you serious?
It's just another.
It's something we can do together.
You're the wrong one, man. You're the wrong one. Here's where I'm going with this, right? Because that's not what I expect. I would expect if you said to me, not even you, because I know you got some weird shit going on in your household. So, all right, let's just say it's somebody else.
Okay.
Right? A close friend, like our boy Colin, right? Who just left. Good friend, business colleague, and all that. Let's say he comes in. Guys, I'm getting into falconry. He's got little girls at home. He's a busy guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to discourage him from this. You know what I mean?
See,
I'm that friend to be like, listen, dude, I get it. You need a hobby, but come on, man.
Yeah. That's where you and I differ.
What are you doing here? Yeah.
That's where you and I differ, because I'm always empowering and want to try to encourage people. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. I've never done that. Tell me, how did you get into all that?
You're not thinking about the end result, all right? Because Colin, he's already a cool guy, right? A little bit pale, but he's all right, right? Complexion of a bed sheet, but he's okay. But then all of a sudden, your boy, right, goes and he's an upstanding citizen. He's a good dad. He's a good businessman, right? But now what happens? You get into falconry.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you grow out the man ponytail thing. You know what I mean? Something else goes weird. I'm
all encouraging. So, for example, this is a real example. Okay. Our producer Sam.
Yeah.
She's very selective on the things or the hobbies she engages herself with.
Very good way to say that.
Very selective.
Strong way to say that.
To the point where I'm always trying to challenge her. I'm like, Sam, how about do something different, get into sniping or something, something cool.
Have you thought of a 50 cal?
Right, do rock climbing.
Sure.
But no, she's the 1 week I asked her, what are you doing this weekend? She's like, I don't know. I'll probably just watch the weather, forecast. And I'm like, wait, stop. Stop right there. Weather forecast, that's what you think of when you think of the upcoming weekend?
That's a hype moment too. She was like, I'll probably look at like the weather, and she was excited about it.
Yeah.
But that's a difference. See, that's
now
the other extreme.
If she were to say, I'm thinking about getting a Falconry, I'm like, yes. Praise the Lord. To learn something new.
Dude, it doesn't end well. It doesn't end well. For women, what do we end up at? Right? Where she gets hard into it.
Yeah.
Right? She doesn't work here anymore. I'll tell you that. Right? Falconry is taking her off it way out in left field. Right? She's living in the woods. Nick, long gone. Because Nick's got other things going. He's eating popcorn or whatever Nicks do. Right?
Nick will be stuck at the movie theater watching movies
with the bird
with his popcorn
on her like
by himself.
Yeah. No, because he'll hang on for a minute, right?
Okay.
He'll hang on and be like, all right, babe, we're in this together. But then there's like this giant predator, like as they're watching like some Disney film or something, just sitting on his shoulder, like all nervous. Claws are huge, eating their popcorn.
Never going to happen. But see, I would only hope that something exciting like that would happen for Sam.
We need
that she would pick up some sort of hobby that's completely badass, so cool.
Is falconry badass though?
I think so. Like if you're sitting there and all of a sudden this badass bird comes right on her glove and shit
all over your
you
car.
get used to that.
You get used to it? Sure. Okay.
You get used to that.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, Nick's kind of wondering what happened to his girlfriend.
Right.
You know, she's out there playing around with her bird while he's sitting there eating popcorn, watching a movie all by himself.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I see. All right. So she's a bad example. Colin's a smart guy who would never do this sort of thing, right? He's keeping it on track. I'm trying to say
you're never going to get me to be like negative about it.
Your friends have got to be a guardrail is what I'm trying to tell you, right? So like
now if you said something like I'm getting into like making meth in my basement,
I'd be like solid, I don't know about that, bro.
I don't know. Like it's illegal. A lot of things can go wrong.
I mean, if you cut me in.
I mean, I'd be like, I didn't hear you talk about this. I don't want anything.
I want to know about it. No. Right. So then there's a line, right? There's a line between falconry and meth making that we're, you know what I mean? There's a line where we can probably agree. Like,
I guess maybe if you said I'm getting into like, you know,
what's I'm going to take?
Like slide my nuts off of a pole. I would laugh so hard.
This poor Indian guy.
I would laugh so hard. Like, okay, can you tell me when that's going to happen? Because I want to record that and we're posting. I would never want to do the what would you call it?
Slap and what is it called?
Smash and slide.
Smash and slide.
Never want to do that.
If I set up, if we had like a little portable, you know, like real heavy weighted kind of pole out here in the parking lot, and just like, hey man, hear me out, and I got my loincloth already on.
No,
like bro, you're missing out. I'm all tan, oiled up.
If you put a pole out there and you're wearing a loincloth and you're gonna do like what those you see in those Indian reels where you flip, do a forward flip, and grab onto the pole between between your legs.
Right.
I will say, have fun with that. I'm gonna be here recording this shit because this is gonna be the funniest stuff ever. No, see that I would discourage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You need a friend.
If you said extreme stuff too, like, hey, I'm thinking about getting in a BMX or riding and jumping, doing those extreme flips and stuff with no experience. Again, I'd be like, be cautious. There's a lot. Those guys.
So it's all right. Look, the threat of prison, right, keeps you like, hey, man, I don't think so. Very severe bodily injury, right? Don't.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
you can do better than that. We can't really caution against relationships, right? We're both pretty happy, but there's that. But then, of course, the friend never listens to that advice, right? That's just a whole different endeavor, right? But God, do you ever want to do that? You ever see that, like that slow motion car wreck, from afar, just a friend?
Yeah.
And then, all your boys are like,
this is not going to end well.
Dude.
Yeah.
But you can't, what can you do?
Yeah.
What can you do? Yeah, I guess so, man. I don't know. There's no cool factor in it at all,
Mm-mm.
right? Like it just seems like
Mm-hmm.
if they have the bird on their, I don't know, man. They
Yeah.
got an Instagram now. It's just them and their bird. It doesn't seem like, you
Yeah.
lost your cool factor.
No, see,
That kind of social.
I don't know. Are you talking about
looking
now,
out for
like
somebody?
like your own like perception and brand
It's true.
perception
No,
and all
it's-
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you're perceived.
How you're perceived?
Yeah.
Yeah, I say like whatever makes you happy, and like so long as you're like experiencing life and living life to the fullest within reason. Again, can't be illegal. Make sure you're safe. Make sure you're not gonna spend all your money away and be foolish
Right.
like that. Otherwise, yeah, have fun.
Well,
Cool.
all right. Here's a serious,
Jump in.
a more serious take on that is the authentic. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, all right, here's a harmless one, like bowling.
Mhm.
Right? Nothing wrong with bowling.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like bowling. It's fun, but a little bit nerdy. Could be. Right? I mean, it's a little bit like
Yeah.
Big Lebowski, one of the greatest films
Yeah.
ever. Right? Kind of, poking a little bit. What's the other one? Bill Murray. Kingpin.
Kingpin, yeah.
Right? We're not taking it 100% serious, right? But like, maybe you're a great bowler.
Mhm.
Maybe you really like it,
Yeah.
right? So it's not this big social death that I would say falconry would be, right? But if you're really into it,
Mhm.
fine. Then you adopt it. You make it part of your brand,
Mhm.
your personal little thing that you got going.
Yeah. Now, see, hobbies, I'm really easy going with it regards to that.
Yeah.
When it comes to like life decisions,
All right.
if you were to say, hey, I'm deciding to, I'm deciding to look for another job and I'm going into acupuncture.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, hey, look, I may understand why you're looking for another job. I mean, I get that. Sometimes you got to pursue your passion, but let's think about the acupuncture thing. Will you be able to sustain your family? Not to say that I would discourage. I would just say, have you thought about all these
Caution.
things?
Yeah.
Have you talked to other acupuncture people?
Right.
Are they successful?
Right.
What
kind of research have we done here?
I would be a responsible friend to help you to be a sounding board.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with that. There's a couple jobs where you just kind of look and like, that's not gonna work out, dude.
Right. Like if you see, even like with like Lily, she was every once in a while she'll periodically tell me like what she wants to do with her life, and she'll tell me, well, I want to, get into being let's say a lawyer or something, and I'm like, well, okay, of course, that's a great profession. A lot of people can make good money in there, but I'll always kind of make sure to show her the full picture of that. A lot of lawyers, they have to start their own business.
Sign of a recession.
And it's hard. You're not only just a lawyer, but you're also a business owner on top of that.
Yeah.
And so I would just kind of try to paint the most realistic, accurate picture, not to discourage, but just know what you're getting into. Otherwise, go right ahead, become a lawyer.
That's interesting. I probably do the same. I tend to do the same thing, just kind of like, because if you're serious about it, far be it from me to stop you.
Yeah.
Right. You want to look like an asshole with a bird on your shoulder? Go ahead. Right. This predatory animal.
Literally, I have birds. I literally have birds.
But those are your friends.
On my shoulder.
Those are your friends. You don't have any delusion about what you're doing. You just got your homie.
What are you saying about me?
You just got your homie on your side. Who's kind of a dick, by the way. Floyd's a complete dick. But like, you've got your buddy, and that's fine. But you're not proclaiming to be a pirate. You're not going hunting with this bird, right?
But I have contemplated one reason why I want to take him out and harness him and get him used to harnessing is so I could take him to the Ren Fest and he can
shut the fuck up.
And he can sit on my shoulder.
Real, bro?
Yeah, so he can sit on my shoulder. I can walk around.
Is it like is it going to be the kilt thing?
Yeah.
Or are you going to have
we're like my kilt
pirate thing? What are we doing?
Wear my kilt and I'll have him like sitting on my shoulder. I'll take him around.
Shut up, dude.
No, I seriously want to do that.
Here's my real intentions, right? Because either A, I'm going to hype you. Look, I'm going to hype you up out of authentic dude, I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
You've been on the couch too long. Get your shit together.
Yeah.
You're going to get laid off, all that kind of thing, right? Oh, go ahead, right? You're just going to get social cred on this, do your thing. Or the caution, hey, man, have you really thought this through? Because I don't think crystal meth's the way to go here. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that one's the hype you into just chaos. Like, I can't wait to see how that turns out. You're going to go to, let you become Instagram famous for that bird.
I seriously, like, I'm about, like, I want to do it all. I want to, like, I don't care if it's nerdy. I don't care if it's cool. I don't care whatever it is. Like, I would love to go to San Diego Comic-Con and dress up like full-blown outfit like Captain America or something.
Okay.
I would love doing that.
Yeah,
but then I love going to, recently we went to Sonic Temple, or we want to go Louder in Life and just headbang to heavy metal music and wear my chains and my rings. And then I want to go ride my motorcycle. And then I want to go to Renfest and have my bird on my shoulder and look like a complete nerd. Like, I want to do it all. We had a friend, actually now, I was going to say months ago, but now it's probably a year or two ago, but she invited Hannah and I to like a Shrek rave.
Okay.
At Bogart's, right?
Right.
And so we go to the Shrek rave, and there's all these college students dressed up as like Shrek characters, and they're all jumping, going crazy. And I'm like, okay, I'm like the oldest one here.
Yeah.
And so I had a choice. I said, okay, either I just be all humbug and doom and gloom, like this is the stupidest thing, I'm out of here.
Right.
But I said, no.
Right. I
got one life to live. I've never done this.
Shrek it up.
If you saw me in college, I was nowhere near ever going to go to something like this.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know what? Took a shot, and I didn't even wait for Hannah and our friend. I just started jumping. I'm like, yeah! I just started jumping and going nuts. And I'm like, what am I doing? But on the other hand, I'm like, you know what? I'll be able to talk about this when I'm old.
Yeah, it's worth the story.
And so then, Hannah starts looking at me. He's like, okay, he's having fun. I'm going to join in. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
I went to the ICP concert, and then I've never listened to them. That's something that Hannah's always listened to.
Right. All the stinky juggalos.
Yeah. All the stinky juggalos. Just spraying Faygo all over me. And I was like, yeah, give it I was drenched in Faygo. Again. Right. One life to live. Or Hannah likes to say, one life, one death to live. No. I forget what she says. She doesn't say one life to live.
Dude, you're worst. You are so
I
bad
am the
with
worst.
Sayings. What's going on here, man?
You know why? Because my brain is always going like a million miles a minute. I can't.
But you were in the business, man. Were you
idioms? I'm the worst at.
When you were at the pulpit, man, did you like lose the Bible?
She just says, instead of like you only got one life.
Right.
She always says you only have one death. That's her thing.
Okay.
And that like. And so therefore you might have multiple lives, like you live different experiences through life. Yeah. Don't just live this is who I am. This is the life that I live. No, be a pirate. If you want to try being a pirate, go for it.
Bird and all.
Yeah. Bird and all. You want to go and like be, heavy metal, do that too. Cause you only have one death. I kind of like that.
I agree.
So live multiple lives. Try it all.
Noble.
Yeah.
Right. Find that authentic self.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's why you'll never see me being like too critical. Unless it's going to be something that's impacting your kids,
illegal,
your spouse, illegal, financial, like,
right.
Yeah.
Reputational's got to come in at a certain point, right? I mean, you can't just be like, hey man, I'm starting an OnlyFans. It's going to be, whatever it's going to be called. It's going to be something dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
You probably shouldn't do that, man.
Now, from the marketer standpoint, I might address things a little differently. Okay. Like, okay, you're a CEO of a company, you're leading this team. Just before you do that, understand that you have your own personal brand.
Yeah.
Did you have to consider?
Right.
I'm not saying no. I'm not just, I want to always be encouraging, but just count the cost.
Yeah, I love it.
Count the cost.
Yeah, everything has a cost.
Because
everything has a price.
That might impact your own personal brand,
Yeah.
And I also don't want you to be something you're not. Like, why are you doing this? Are you doing this simply because you want to try new experiences? Cool. Or are you really trying to just change the direction? Okay, that's fine too, but why? Just help me understand.
Yeah. What's the motivation? Because that motivation, if it's if it's maybe what's well-intentioned, well-meaning,
Yeah.
right? If you're not doing it simply for the thing you get from the experience
Mm.
needs to be rich. It
Mhm.
needs to be worth attaining, right?
Does it though?
I think it does. And what I mean by that is
Okay.
that the experience could be simply having a good story to tell, right?
Right. Right.
A la the Shrek
Yeah.
right thing. And so it's just like, I let my ego go, no harm, no foul to
Mhm.
like anything in my world, right?
Mhm.
Nobody's mad that you went to a Shrek thing. And so, you have a good story to tell.
Yeah.
Right. So what was the cost? What was the price? What's the reward? And it all kind of evens out,
Mhm.
right? But if you do things, say, based purely in ego, right?
Mhm.
Or you do things like in order to like, as dark as it is, like to like supplement actual people caring about you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because like maybe those likes on Instagram confuse your brain.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then it's like, wait a minute, man. Are you doing this because you really like Falconry or whatever? Or do you just want to,
Yeah.
get the love, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I've been, guilty of that, certainly
Yeah.
as a younger man, where you're like, do I really like this band?
Yeah.
Am
Yeah.
I really in it like that?
Yeah.
Because I ran into, speaking of authenticity, somebody doing it for the love of the game.
Mm.
And I think I told you about this. Ran into a girl way back in the day,
Mhm.
like 24, 23, something like this. And she had the Cannibal Corpse album tattooed right here from collarbone to nipple,
Mhm.
right? And it was Cannibal Corpse. It was Tomb of the Mutilated.
Okay.
And it's like this sex scene of two zombies.
Yeah.
Bro, she had it tattooed on her chest.
Okay.
I like Cannibal Corpse too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But if I thought I was at all hardcore,
Mhm.
she had otherwise to say. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like her experience is like, damn, you have paid the price.
Yeah.
Right? You are in this for life.
Yeah.
And if she, God forbid, was doing it for I don't know, there wasn't even Instagram then.
Mhm.
But if she was doing it for the wrong reasons, basically.
Yeah.
She's gonna live to regret that. You know?
Yeah. She lived to regret that, or she might get another tattoo.
Right.
A lot of times when, one thing I've learned, having tattoos and being around people who have tattoos is often tattoos is those sessions are therapy.
Fact.
It's like pain therapy.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we might look and say, that's the lamest tattoo ever. Why would you ever put that on you?
Yeah.
But it's therapy for them.
It was the experience of
it. Was the experience of it. And again, like, yeah, will she have regret? Maybe she doesn't like that band later. Okay, fine.
Right.
She's going to cover up, or she's going to get another tattoo, or she, it's just whether or not we like it or not. I think like that's stupid. Like that's one thing. But
yeah,
I'm pretty critical about people's tattoos.
Yeah.
But I keep that to myself because I understand that each tattoo means something to that individual.
Yeah,
usually.
Usually. And that's I saw I think it was called Modify.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see that? It's from like 2005,
Mm-hmm.
2004. It was about tattoos and body mods, but way back then,
Mm-hmm.
And there was this tattoo artist. It was all around the same town. It was like whatever, LA or San Diego or something like that in California. And then they were very much on the edge of what it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were like doing suspensions, right? Hook suspensions. They were doing like metal implants in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the horns and all that sort of stuff. And tattoos, to say the least, right?
Yeah.
So there was one tattoo artist who looked like a mom. You know what I mean? She was a regular lady in her 30s.
Yeah.
Just pretty lady, but she was inked up pretty good. And she was like, sometimes people just put things on themselves because they think it's pretty. And that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird that when I heard that, it was like kind of liberating.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I had even gotten tattoos at that point.
Yeah.
But it was like, it kind of like removed the sanctity of the tattoo. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
this is virgin territory is my temple from God and all, all those kinds of ideas. Like, not really.
Yeah.
And I kind of put in my mind that term I say all the time, like meat vehicle, right?
It's the
This is just
grossest
my
term,
meat
dude.
vehicle, like that I'm going to run into the rocks of oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just like a car
Yeah.
that you kind of like, like you rent almost,
Mhm.
like when you rent a cool car and
Mhm.
you just drive it like an asshole. And like, yeah, I put bumper stickers all over it. I spilled some coffee. It's fine. I'm only renting it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And like, that's this body, man,
Mhm.
so to beautify it or, dent it up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
It's a temp anyway, man.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
It's a meat vehicle. So yeah, I get that. But yeah, you better do it. Better do it for the right reasons. I think that's, and it better be authentic to who you are.
Mhm.
I think that bit of self-discovery and what is authentically you though,
Mhm.
that's hard, man. Like I wonder,
Are you still talking about tattoos?
tattoos as a means of self-expression,
Okay.
right? But in other words, like life choices as well.
Yeah.
Right. Because tattoos certainly can be a life choice insofar as if you get like, face tattoos, like you're really starting to cut into what life's going to offer you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What doors are going to be opened for you.
Yep.
Right.
Again, count the cost.
Right. There's, and it's a weird thing. Like, well, what point in your life, because everybody's so different,
Mhm.
do you have the ability to kind of count that cost?
Mhm.
Like, is it okay when you're 50 years old to just get the face tattoo? Kind of pull a Mike Tyson when what was he, like
Right.
45 or something?
Yeah.
He got that face tattoo. It just seems like a heavy decision to make, and not just a face tattoo.
Yeah.
But then that goes along with the job you take.
Yeah.
Right. It's like now, there's friends of mine whose kids are in high school and,
Mhm.
and certainly in college, but they're having those kinds of open discussion. Hey, checking out schools.
Mhm.
And they think they want to be a bio major. And I'm like, he's fucking 13 years old or something. Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I know I didn't know what the hell I was doing then.
Right.
I knew a couple of kids that did,
Mhm.
and they're doctors right now.
Mhm.
But
That's why for me, I'm always about, like, with people, it's more important to work on your character
yeah,
and your faith and what's on the inside, because that is something that will carry you, for the rest of your life. What you do, if you end up putting earrings or tattoos, or you do some hobby that is like really lame, like, okay, whatever.
right.
Do you have a good heart? Are you responsible? Are you trustworthy? Are you loyal? All the character qualities.
Yeah.
Do you have good discipline? Do you have empathy and compassion?
Yeah.
Like, if you work on those things,
Right.
that's what I care about the most, because I've seen people with tattoos and they're hugely successful in whatever they decided to do.
Yeah.
I have gold teeth and everything, and they're like successful rappers. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, should get a grill.
And then you get other people who don't have any of that. They look normal and they're lazy, miserable people, and they're just mean to others. It's like, okay, who cares?
Yeah.
Just, where's your heart, dude? And what are you doing to improve? Because and then from that, are you using your life to better others and make this world a better place? That's all I care about. That's why I tell Lily all the time. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care if you go to college. I don't care if you go to trade school. I don't care if you don't go to any school.
Right.
What I care about is your character.
Yeah.
That's what I care about. Because if you have good character and you're always trying to learn about who you are and you're seeking some of your passions, you'll be successful in that. That doesn't necessarily mean successful in terms of money, but you could have a happy life. You could still enjoy the life that's the one life that's been given to you,
Yes.
But you don't have those character qualities. Now you're getting addicted to things, and you're, treating people terribly, and next thing you know, you're lonely, and everybody's miserable around you. Well, I don't care what you have on your face or not have on your face. You're just a miserable wretch.
That's so.
And nobody wants to be around you.
What I'm thinking about as you say that is the idea that, like, you can't take it with you, as they say, right? So all the riches, you can pull an Egyptian king move and just be buried with it, but you can't take it with you.
Yeah.
Right? But what is left then of a successful life by the standards that you just mentioned? right? That is to say, being a good person and all those like good traits, right? In reflection of a person's life through that lens, you can imagine we called it a funeral. What do you call that when you say that? Eulogy.
Eulogy. Yeah.
So you can imagine the person's eulogy in an aside kind of way, meaning like, they were covered in tattoos, right? And they had 500 falcons as their pets or whatever weird shit they were into.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, they were the best friend I ever had.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so like those traits that made you that person, like everything's just an aside.
Yeah.
It's just a bumper sticker you put on your main vehicle as you drove through life. So yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And it seems maybe the more I don't know that I've ever articulated those things to myself. I think I've arrived at those conclusions a different way. Right. A lot of hard lessons I've learned, I guess, to just say, well, you should always try to do the right thing. An idea that I like is like laugh like a little kid, because if you're going to laugh hard.
Yeah.
If you can do the right thing even when nobody's around.
Right.
If these traits, were shown to me by the universe, right? Everything else that I'm kind of collecting is like a passing thing. It really makes the rest of life look like a hobby.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all kind of this just impermanent, trying it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. That does not necessarily mean anything to my identity.
No. Right.
Whereas those traits, am I a good person? Right.
Yeah.
Which I try to be.
Yeah.
Pretty. I don't try to yell at people in traffic.
Yeah. Right. And I think that, I see people who have, on the outside, they look like they have everything together.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be around them. And then you see people who leave pretty meager lives and they're just a joy to be around. They're humble. They're fun. They have just a great outlook on life. They're genuine, salty earth type of people.
Right.
And those are the people I want to be with.
Yeah.
I don't care what you look like.
Right.
And that's what grounds me, because it doesn't matter how successful I ever, from worldly standards, how successful I ever become in my lifetime. I'm always going to judge myself based on how I treated the people around me, regardless of their status in life. That's how I'll always judge myself. And so, so that's why if somebody were to say, or if you were to say, hey, I'm looking to get into, yoga, or be into ballet, I'd be like, well, that's interesting. That's complete. But however, if I thought about it, like, that would be actually kind of wild, because that's not Chris at all.
Just pirouetting through the office.
Complete detour.
Hey, bro.
And I kind of like it.
Yeah,
like that's such a huge twist in your life. That
swan real quick. Yeah.
But okay, if that's what you want, I don't know. Maybe there's some trauma in your life that you got to address. Who am I to say?
Maybe these tights are helping you work through it.
You went from BJJ to ballerina. Hey, cool. Tell me when your first recital is. I'll be there to support you.
Is it if only to just check out the unit? What
now that I might laugh at.
What is it real? Is it it's male ballerina? Ballerina?
What you think it's ballerino?
Is it?
No, it's just ballet.
Sure. All right. Sure. But if I walk into the room, right, and I'm like, "Hey, my name is Chris. I'm a dancer in ballet," and then somebody else in the room is like, "Oh, okay, so you're a ballerina."
No,
ballerina.
I think so. Yeah, and I never knew there was a masculine version of ballet dancers,
because it's like an Italian word, I guess, right, or something, or Spanish, something like
ballerino.
That. And so they,
right? Maybe.
I never really thought about that until this very moment.
Anyways, I would, whatever. If that's what you want to do, hopefully this is just a phase, but I'll support you. And
so I don't know how much.
I mean, I'll probably laugh at you just because that would be so hilarious.
So hard. Yeah, that's my point, right? So like,
but I'll still encourage you if you were serious.
Here's an interesting other side of that, right? So you could be discouraged. Again, back to falconry. You could be discouraged with overly judgmental friend, right? So beyond busting your balls, like actually like really, like they'll disown you. And so I'm kind of like, for the most part, I'm like, to hell with that, man. Go find some new friends, right?
Yeah.
So, but the really interesting thing and how the psychology is kind of sussed out. I know we've read an article or something on this recently. How that the friend group that you have, particularly amongst men, the friend group you have at Bust Your Balls is a tight friend group.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my own personal experience at the gym, I get abuse on a weekly basis, right? But I know that whatever should come my way, like I give them a ring and they'll help me out.
Yeah.
Right? So it's interesting to kind of, there's a dynamic there, right? It's like, Jimmy's getting a bird. Like, no shit, he's really following through with the Falcon thing. Yeah, I got a glove the other week, man. I don't think we can, we just got to accept it, I guess. I don't know. Then you see him, Jimmy, how's the bird? And it just becomes a thing. Like, Jimmy's into Falcons. I don't know.
Yeah.
We try to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
He's got bird shit all over his house.
But he's into it. But he also had to think, like, there's so many worse things they could be into.
Oh no, he used to hit the meth real hard, right?
So he jumped into falconry.
Up. Yeah.
Hey, I'm
it's
gonna be
way better
supportive.
than meth, dude.
I'm gonna be supportive if that's the case.
Falcons, way better than meth. That's our t-shirt. That's our bumper sticker.
No, I would be completely supportive of that.
Yeah.
No, I do think that you should be able to try things in life and see what you like or don't like.
Yeah.
At one point I was really trying to work on my golf game. I was playing golf a lot. Just past year I threw out my golf clubs because it was just taking up space, and then I just didn't want to keep moving around in my shed.
How did you throw them out? Was it like it was just like these things, let me get rid of this, I'm not doing
I'm like, I haven't played for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So
I
I'm
thought
like,
it was like a moment of like,
no.
I'll never do this, god damn you. And
no, I just threw it out, and I'm like, I don't play it. If I'm gonna play it, then maybe I'll buy some again. But that was a fun life at that point.
Yeah.
But I just don't do that anymore. Now I'm into my Harley. I'm riding, and I'm into that now. Like, I think people should allow to explore,
right,
to try to find what they're interested in, and then that's how you gain new friends. That's how you through those communities.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's huge, man.
Yeah,
that is. Of all the things, I would say I never really knew how lucky I was in playing music.
Yeah,
and really, really need to do it.
Yeah,
kind of play music.
Yeah,
and to be exposed to that kind of friend group. Some of my very close friends to this day, bands I've been in and guys I've made music with.
Yeah,
and you just don't realize how much time has passed. I'm talking like 30-year-old friendships at this point. So to have that permanent lens, and to this day, it's the first thing we talk about, right? I mean, sometimes months go by, man. You know what it is.
Yep.
We're in our 40s. Like, we got shit to do.
Yep.
But God, man, if I get like 20 minutes, I'm so happy to talk about that first Police record. You know what I mean? Like the nuances of how Stuart Copeland did this on the ride instead of that. Like, yeah, man. Yeah. But what it does is it seems like an easy way to find people that are, you don't even have to start with the entry level small talk.
Yeah. It's
just right off the jump, we can just plug that in and we understand this viewpoint on the world. Right. And yeah, man, from experiences like going to shows too, same thing. Like, man, if you've ever seen Slayer from the pit, and you hear, whatever, Dead Skin Mask or Ditto Head or Rain and Blood or something, right? From Slayer, and the lights go down, right? So the Rain and Blood's an easy one because the lights go down and then they turn the red on and that E flat, whatever it is, it comes on, and the whole energy of the room is just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've seen the pit start before the music.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't even know what to do with yourself. And you're just standing in the middle of a circle pit that's like 100 feet, just at this massive festival. And you're like, this is it, man. I might get fucked up in this. But these are my people.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember when we I think it was like Code Orange or something we were listening to, a smaller band, and the Circle Pit opened up.
Yeah.
And I'm jumping in.
Yeah,
Again, and my back, I remember my back wasn't all that good. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I've never done this. I'm jumping in there.
Once, man.
And then, of course, I jump into the Avatar, mosh pit. Right. I was a little bit more aggressive. I stayed in there for like maybe 5 seconds. And I'm like, okay, I'm out. These guys are like, are hurting people, you know. Yeah. But I'm like, I just want to say I did it. We were at Sonic Temple, and we're listening to 3-6 Mafia, and we're just, oh man, Hannah and I were just going crazy listening to 3-6 Mafia. And then there's this opportunity where there's two big dudes near us, and they're lifting people up to crowd surf. Right. And then Hannah looks at me, she's like, should I do it? I'm like, yes, do it. It.
That's fun.
Because it's, she's always kind of want to do it, but she's like, I'm getting older now. I don't know. I'm like, no, do it. Just do it one time. Yeah. And then I even had a video, it's still on my phone, where
I think I saw it.
You can see her. She's like, like, what's going on? And they lifted her up.
Yeah.
And then she's just going, and I'm like, awesome. You did it. That's, you've always wanted to do something like that.
Gotta have that experience.
Do it. I don't, and again, you got one life to live. Yeah. Make the most of it. Yeah. And that's kind of how I approach life in general. But you have the core things, the core values that you don't compromise on.
Non-negotiables.
You got your character. Yeah. You do not compromise.
What about those core values? Because I mean, I would imagine most all of us, right, we've like crossed the line. We've zigged when we know we should have zagged, right? And how valuable those moments. I mean, God, like some of those moments like live in your head, and you just cringe at them, right? Yeah. Or like, why did I do that? Those kind. But some are even deeper and more impactful, where they're like, I don't know what the word is, but like in your mind, the experience is such a hard lesson learned that it's like deep, concrete, fundamental in your brain. It's just this immovable thing. Like, I'm never gonna do that again. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those kind of deep moments, right? Where, some of us, you talk to guys like, I love inspirational videos. Guys got out of like federal prison, so you're like, shit, man, you did like 25 years, and you're like genuinely reformed, because they might've been a 20-year-old kid.
You're right.
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 And it's like, you did your time. You paid society back for being such an idiot. But now here you are pushing 50. And then it's like, what? There's something to be learned from this man. Yeah. Or this woman, right? Like, what did you learn when you were down? And it's funny how it gets, there was I think it's like the godless fight, something like that. I forget the name of the book. Or maybe it's just called Godless. But it's about a guy has an experience in a Russian prison. And I hear those are pretty rougher than most, right? But he comes out, and his insights about that experience and how like now he has non-negotiables that are like, I'll fucking die on this hill. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean this. Yeah. And then in a weird twist, I'll die on this hill, back to Jimmy. It's like, Jimmy doesn't play games, man. He's serious. Yeah. Right. Don't do that. Yeah. Like, and so those boundaries are very well set. And then what does that garner? It garners respect. It garners like, I don't know, some of the other traits that make for like, oh, he's a dependable guy. He's reliable. What made him so reliable? Actually, bro, he was in the pen for like decades. Yeah. And then in there, if you dick around, you're liable to get stabbed in the neck. Yeah. Like those dudes aren't playing games. So it's interesting to find where those traits in us people get built. Yeah. Hopefully we don't all have to learn lessons that hard, right?
Yeah, but it's all relative, right? Like, maybe you haven't been in a pen for 25 years,
Right.
but you suffered some trauma as a kid, and you learn from those, from that, you grow from that experience over time, and you develop these values, right?
Right.
It's similar to like, even with companies, with businesses, in order to understand what your brand is all about and what your company represents, you have to formulate those values that steer your brand, your ship, right? And oftentimes those values are born out of experiences, right?
Yeah.
And you create those values, you create your mission statement, your purpose statement, and then that's how you build that brand. And then from there, you make your decisions based off of that brand plumb line that you've established, right? And that's all I ask for people, is that if you take that now and translate it to your personal life, that you as you continue to grow and mature, you keep an open mind and try to establish what are what's your personal brand values? What is your personal mission? And unfortunately, you might not know it at a young age. It might take you a long while before you really get who you are. Like I would say, I didn't really know who I was until I was like mid-30s. And I'm like, okay.
Started to kind of coalesce a little bit.
And then I really didn't know who I was until I went through my divorce, and I was alone. I was by myself. Because I went from living with my parents to then being in college, but I was pretty much commuting. I was always going back home. So I never really left that nest completely. And then right last semester of college, we get married. I get married. And then after that, 17 years of just kind of just trying to figure things out, never being on my own. And then when I went into the time where I was like, okay, I'm going through my divorce, I'm by myself, living in this new house we just built. That's when I discovered myself. I was like, oh, I really do actually like cooking, or I like cleaning this, or I like doing that, or like I never had the time to learn and discover this. And at that point, I was like, what, 38, 39? I'm still trying to figure it out. Like life is about trying to learn and figure those things out. Hopefully along the way, you don't make such drastic missteps that set you back. But we got to try to just figure yourself out, and as you figure that out, and you start to develop that personal brand and that confidence, and this is my narrative, this is my story that I'm trying to tell people, that's why, however, if you want to change, you could do that more maybe in your personal life. You're like, hey, no, I want to get into comic cosplay. Okay, well, that's different. But
all right,
hey, if you're bored, there's worse things you can do in your life. Doesn't necessarily fit the original
cosplay
brand.
Better than meth,
right? But hey, go for it. Right? Now, business is a little different. You can't just go and, hey, let's just try this, and even though it doesn't really match our brand, let's just go ahead and try. Like, you got to be careful, because there's a lot of money involved. You're spending a lot of years and effort and time and resources trying to get people to understand your brand, to capture brand awareness. So you can't just like, let's just go ahead and start selling pizzas, even though you were selling widgets. Like, wait, what? How does that fit? Or let's go ahead.
It's more on the line,
right?
Also, you know what? The nature of that, trying to think, puts me in mind of, say, like a castle, right? The human animal, the psyche, the psychology, who you are, the fact that we're all sons and daughters of something and someone, and the depth of what we are is able to withstand the hurricane force winds of that kind of change, like you're talking about with regard to business. Whereas, it's a facade to an extent, the business, right? Even if it is a long-standing, I don't know, GE or something, like it's still a facade, like it's propped up. It's not a person. And so how it kind of gets on in the world is like, it's more fickle, the relationship to its surroundings, right? Why? Because it's based on commerce. Like if you're not doing the thing that we're paying you to do, you're not really good to us anymore.
Right.
You can tolerate a bit of change, but not that much change.
Not that much,
right?
no.
Because now you're just not the thing anymore.
Yeah.
Right. You were pizza until you started pulling all this dumb shit on there, like ranch dressing, Ohio. And then you're no longer
the
pizza.
other day, I usually make the popcorn.
Yeah.
Pop the popcorn. I put in the pod and I heat it up and do it old school.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, but this time, the other night, Hannah made the popcorn and it was amazing. And I'm like, what did you do to this popcorn? This is so good. Ranch seasoning.
Seasoning on a
ranch
popcorn?
Seasoning. I was like so surprised. And I'm like, this is so good. I'm not a huge popcorn fan. I make it for my family.
Yeah.
I'll take a couple bites, but after a while, there's a diminishing return. I'm like,
what
okay,
is it? It gets stuck in your tooth.
I'm just not. But I ate like the whole bowl. I'm like, I couldn't stop. Ranch dressing, dude. Ranch dressing.
Disgusting.
You can get the seasoning. And she just dumped the ranch dressing seasoning on the popcorn. You gotta live a little, Chris.
No, you don't have to live a little. I'll live another way. You eat your ranch. She's from Ohio too?
Yeah, she's from Ohio.
Bro.
Yeah.
Of course. Anyway, so the discovery of what? The non-negotiables of life, right? It sounds like kind of the general topic that we're surfacing around. So the non-negotiables in business, all right, to kind of put a fine point to it. It's like non-negotiables, like know who you are as a business, right? Know who you are as a person. But the discovery process is long, man. Long. God, is it long? And then, all right, here's another thing too, because you could be genuine in where you arrive at in life. And maybe the whys and how I got here's and all of that like adds up. And maybe it happens to you just a touch sooner than it does most, right? So that's to say, like by 32, you're like locked in business. You are, you know who you are a good person, and all these kinds of things. And on paper and in real life, like you genuinely don't feel like anything's missing. You're not abusing anything, and you're there, right? Interesting how then things come along, change, flip it on its head.
Yeah.
Right. The CEO who is all of the things, right? Had the boats and this, that, the other, maybe not even just those successes, but just had it on paper. Right. And then, some tragedy befalls them, right? Or some revelation befalls their mind. Right. And now they have that moment where what seemed so important, right? What seemed so non-negotiable all of a sudden becomes almost nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Now they start the trek again of this rediscovering, completely different path.
Yeah.
I would bet not having the thought right now that the same traits that made them who they were and made them a good person, they arrive at those same traits, but from a different perspective. Like that the same traits are always the same traits.
Yeah.
Right. You don't arrive certainly at any lesser traits, right? It's not like you leave. I mean, I guess it's not like you leave being a together successful type person and then just start trafficking meth. You know what I mean? It seems like that would be a backward slide into in the moral side of things, which doesn't seem like an evolution.
Yeah.
Right? It can happen. It can happen. But I do think that in those cases, like you've clearly misstepped. Right, because it doesn't.
I mean, obviously, that scenario, that example, that's pretty drastic, and I would say that's a pretty big misstep, right? Yeah. But like, I look at myself, for example. It was in ministry. I was wearing a suit and tie, preaching from the pulpit, wearing my chin strap. Nice dress shoes.
Sure.
I was trying to look the part. This pious.
Right.
Godly man, but then also knowing that inside my heart, there's a lot of things that needed to be addressed. Yeah. Now, as I've kind of gone through a lot of my challenges through my previous marriage and saw how church, reacted to that. Yeah. I have I feel like I have evolved in a way where I understand grace much better than I was taught at church now.
Yeah.
Before,
That's right. Yeah.
when I was there, you would never see me with certain crowds of people.
Right.
Because, how's that going to look upon me? And I can't be seen with those type of people. Now I live with a much more of a freedom that I have. Does my character change? Has my faith changed?
Right.
No. How I practice it? Yes. How I treat people? Yes. Where before it was so much of try to get people to the church. And when you come into our church, you got to like start to, you jump into this matrix and you have to start acting and talking like us.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you know what? I'm going to take church outside.
Yeah.
And I'm going to treat people the way they ought to be treated according to scriptures.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show them how to be treated. And I am not going to hold them to a high standard that they can never reach or should ever reach, especially if they're not even where they need to be in life.
Right.
And I'm certainly not going to put that type of pressure on myself. Now,
okay.
is that a de-evolution or is that an evolution? Because if you were to ask for the perspective of my,
those former,
what they say, friends who are not there anymore, they don't check on me, where'd you guys go? Right. They would say, he
fell off.
He fell off the train.
Sold out.
He sold out. What happened to him?
Satan has him.
They don't like my social media posts. Whenever anything fun happens, they don't dare put a heart or a thumbs up on any of that stuff.
Right.
Why? Are you gonna like all of a sudden get infected because you like something
just
that I did?
Into flames.
Because you think that I've de-evolved and fell off the train?
They might sense joy.
No,
maybe, I don't know.
Like, are you that scared? Right. Whereas the people that I'm with now, right, they're the ones who, if something happens, they're gonna come to my house. They're saying, "Hey, how are you doing, man?"
Yeah.
They're the ones texting me saying, "Hey, the tornado's coming. Are you guys all right?"
Yeah.
Where are those other people?
Yeah.
Crickets, nothing.
No.
So that's why, from their standpoint, he might as well be making meth in his basement.
Right.
Where other people's like, wow. So this is what character and faith and empathy and compassion looks like in the church from a Christian. That's evolution, in my opinion. I am no longer trying to look the part. I want to be the part.
Be the part, man. Hell yeah.
I want to live the part.
Don't talk about it.
And part of the part is not being perfect.
Right.
It's stop pretending like you are.
Right.
Because I'm not.
It's a fool's errand.
Yeah, it's a fool's errand.
To pretend. and for those believers, sure seems like what that long-haired hippie dude, that old Jewish dude about 2,000 years ago would have said, who was hanging out with a bunch of whores and lepers? I mean, isn't that what the whole gig was, right? He was just some weirdo talking about this crazy idea in the face of all these maniacs who are like crucifying people, like right over there.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that seems a hell of a lot more in line with, like you're being about it.
Right. There's this one, I think it was on Netflix, but I believe it was called like Jesus Freaks. It was a really good movie. Yeah. But it was based on, during the hippie era, where a lot of the church, the very fundamentalist churches, were really challenged because there's this whole hippie, revolution taking place. Right. And then on top of that, some of them came to know the Lord. And they want to come into our church. And you look like a bum. Well, you got to get out of our church. Yeah. Like, wait a second.
That's against the narrative.
That's against the narrative.
What's your brand?
Right. And it's weird because that's still done today. Yeah. Why are you so caught up with the way people look and the way people act? Right. Like they should be welcome. It's because you're uncomfortable. Is that what's the issue? It's going to rub off on you. Right. And you're going to be infected. You can't handle that. Right. Come on now. Yeah. Come on now. Christ says, I thought to as much as you've done to the very least of my brethren, you've done it unto me.
Ooh.
Right.
See, you nailed that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't know, I can go on about that, but I do think that, so what does that mean? Is that evolution or is that while you de-evolved? It depends on the perspective you're looking at, right? But I do think that everybody's on a journey. Yeah. And take this on a business level, every brand, every company's on a journey. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to navigate through these rough waters, whether, in business, economic downturns, we talked about that last podcast, whether it be adding a new CEO and they bring their own spin to it.
It's like getting a new front man in a band.
Right. You're having to navigate through this journey, and you don't want to lose the critical elements that makes you or your company brand what it is. You don't want to lose the essence of that. Hopefully you're evolving it and you're improving it. Right.
Yeah.
Very, very, very important to kind of navigate that through those rough waters wisely. In business, it's harder. You can't just make quick turns. It's like imagine like the big cruise ship. They don't take turns on a dime, right?
No, yeah. It takes a quarter mile.
To make that turn.
Slow and steady.
And
you've got to plot the course.
You got to plot it.
And you've got to understand the weather.
Right.
And you've got to understand, like, oddly enough, right? It's like an illusion or something.
Yeah.
That business, right? Like because it's the illusion is that you've got this massive unsinkable ship, and that it can just weather any storm, right? But it's almost its own worst enemy to a degree, because if you turn too sharp, man, it's gonna tip over, right? You can't do that. You've got to account for everything. It's very, very calculated.
Yeah.
I think that people can be given different kinds of grace because we are affected very much by things, and we can pivot if we needed to, and so we can kind of be forgiven to just abandon what was yesterday and move into something different.
To a certain extent. I mean, it's still, your decisions still impact other people's lives.
Fact.
Too.
Yeah, your family's going to be.
Obviously in business, the decisions you make is going to impact the employees, going to impact their customers, etc.
Right.
But on a personal level, I guess that may be at times where if you were to tell me that, hey, I'm picking up ballet dancing,
right,
I would be supportive, but I would wonder, like, okay, that's not on brand. Like,
wait a second.
I'm just doing a little check-in. Like, are you all right? Like, is there something I'm missing? Because I see you every day, and you've never mentioned anything about wearing a tutu.
Yeah,
and
no, never came up.
And all of a sudden, you're interested in ballet shoes and doing that. Like, I just want to check in that you're okay.
Right.
And if you say, well, I've been thinking about this and and okay, well, hey, I'm supportive.
You expose like a little book.
But I do want, that's a huge left turn. That's a sharp left turn.
Yeah.
And then, that impacts other people too around you, because now I got to stand next to you.
Yeah.
You got to consider how it's going to impact others.
Like I'm enthused.
Yeah.
I'm like really into it. And you're being supportive, but it like really like stands out at like the local meetings we're having, like
have you ever seen that
ballet.
Have you ever seen that weird, I don't know if it falls in ballet, but you ever see that dance where like they wear those long dresses and they look like they're floating because they're like,
I don't know.
They're like moving their feet really fast. But I kind of want to try that one time. Just
and break your toes, dude.
Look like can I just float through life?
Can we do that outside? So we'll get track suits. Right, we'll get the rings like we were saying last time from the 80s. We'll get grills. You just said it this podcast. I think I want to get a grill. Never had one. And then then we get like long flowing dresses, and just we're gonna go terrorize this town.
What I'll do is I'll wear my kilt.
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna mash. It's gonna mash up, everything.
Sure. As it does.
Wear my kilt.
Right.
Let's see. I will underneath that though. I'll have my what do you call those pants we're talking about? The gusset pants.
Throwing high kicks.
Yes.
Throwing out your back at the same time.
Ballet shoes.
Yeah.
They like mash everything all up. But then I'll have like my, the knife I carry on. Sure. And just start walking around.
It's the only thing we got. Whatever that technique
See, now
is.
if you saw that, you'd be like, okay, we need to have a talk.
Bro.
I would expect you to say, sit down.
But that's
this
where
is called intervention.
Because if I see you gone way out in left field with all these kind of harmless, unrelated hobbies, I am way on board with that, because now you just look like a maniac.
That's when you should say, okay, have you taken your Mayday yet? Because you obviously need a Mayday.
No, wherever you've gone off the rails, I am happy to join you, man. Let's go.
No, you would not.
Oh, yeah.
You would not. Let's say I start doing the twinkle toes into the BJJ gym.
No, don't get it twisted. I'm not going to join. I'm not going to put it on.
Would you support me if I went into your jiu-jitsu gym doing one of these like a floating?
I will.
And I'm like, I want to join.
Disco
I want to roll. You say I know that guy. You would not.
There's a disco ball at the gym. I shit you not. I would have Gary, shout out to Jean Shorts Gary. I would have Gary set that thing up. We'll get us some nice lights so it hits the disco ball. I'll be like, you guys have no idea what Ernie's been up to. I need to show off. This is my friend. Just
you would
him
not.
5 minutes.
You would hide in the corner.
Oh my God.
As I'm like doing one of these things.
I will get a top hat. I will announce the shit out of it. If you want to do that,
well, that's a good friend. See, that's character right there. You didn't just abandon me because I'm going through my phase.
Right on, man. Go ahead.
All right, that's true friendship.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
that's true friendship. Nice.
That was a wild journey of a conversation.
Yeah. That was good.
That was a good one. All right, I think we can get out of here on that. So, from the iconic era of advertising to the digital age, I'm Chris.
And I'm Ernie.
Keep it legendary.